Oh, it's easy to do that. Yeah. Okay. Okay. We're good to go there. Okay. Welcome everyone to the December 20th council meeting. Reminder that the meeting is live streamed, recorded and available on the internet and in the town of Parry Sound website at www.parrysound.ca. Prior to the open session, there was a closed meeting. It was moved by Councilor Gillespie and seconded by Councilor Ashford. That pursuant to section 239(2) and 3 of the Municipal Act SO 2001 C25 amended, Council incorporated the town of Parry Sound moves to a special meeting closed to the public in order to address matters pertaining to the personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employee, appeal of denial of tax license, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting municipality or local board, violation of freedom of conscience claim. Matters pertaining to advice that's subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, violation of freedom of conscience claim. And that meeting was held. At this time, I'd also like to acknowledge that we're on the territory of the Anishinaabe people under the Roberts Treaty of 1850 and the waterways traveled by the Métis. Are there any additions or prioritization of the agenda? Okay. The mover and seconder for the agenda then, please. Councilor McCann and Councilor Ashford. The council agenda for December 20, 2022 be approved and circulated. All in favor? That's carried. Any disclosure to your interest? Councilor Key?
Yes, I would be disclosing the pecuniary interest in respect to the closed matter that would be coming to the meeting in respect to the appeal for the taxi driver as I employed by the Solicitor General.
Okay. And we were seconded 1 minute. Councilor Gillespie, Councilor Ashford. The minutes from the regular council meeting held December 6, 2022. The meeting held December 13, 2022. Any discussion on any of those comments? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Questions of staff? Councilor McCann.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions. First of all, a comment for Mr. Kearns and a note of thanks for the enhanced lighting at Bowes and Pine Street. And you were just informing me this earlier this evening that in testing the lights, you're going to turn the brightness up a bit to enhance the lighting, which would particularly allow drivers to see the pedestrians going back and forth.
It's through your worship. Yeah, yes. It's actually the temperature of the bulb, so it'll actually be a change out of the bulb to give a different brightness and light. Stay.
Well, thank you very much to you and to Shipman Electric for that. That's great. With regards to the weather that we've had with snow and wet snow on tree limbs falling on power lines and that, I had been asked by a taxpayer, and I thought this would be a good question to ask. There are town trees that have limbs that may be hanging over some, whether they're cable or telephone or internet lines or what have you. To mitigate any problems, is it something that the town could do to cut those limbs before they may fall on the lines. I guess an ounce of prevention, is that something, I know I was told that the owners of it, like Lakeland, for example, can't do anything to the town trees on their own. So is there a process that if people see some pending danger can expect the town to help out?
Through your worship, I would certainly encourage folks, if they see something that's of concern, to let us know. And as far as the utilities go, they actually are the ones responsible within their corridor, particularly the power lines, to ensure that those limbs are trimmed back, or trees as it may be. So they don't, the power utility certainly does not they don't need to seek our permission to maintain those corridors in a safe manner. But for the other utilities, we certainly encourage folks, if they see something of concern, to let us know, and we'll bring it to their attention.
So if the limb hasn't fallen, but it's looking potential, then people should still call? Or is it something that, I'm sorry, is it something that, well, in the case of the utility, in case of power, you're saying that Lakeland has the authority to cut the limbs without the town's permission?
Through your worship, yes, that is the case, but they're certainly welcome to let us know. Hopefully shortly there'll be some enhancements to our website that will allow folks to do that visually, but they're certainly welcome to call, and our staff will be able to direct the calls. But our staff, as a regular course of inspections, do keep an eye on the town trees to make sure that there are no obvious hazards that need to be taken care of otherwise.
That's great, thank you. And Mr. Mayor, I have one more question, and this might be for Chief Thompson. Out the other day, while driving, I came up behind a Hammond minibus that said school purpose on the back. It was stopped. It looked like it may have been dropping some children off. There were no typical flashing lights on it the way you would see on a typical conventional bus, whether the orange or red lights that flash. But it did have its four-way flashers on. I almost went or drove around it, and I thought, I better not. So what is a motorist to do in a case like that? Here's a vehicle that's not a school bus, but it's got a sign on that says school purpose, and it's stopped with its flashers, four-way flashers. Is that, should a driver be circumspect of that and stay put and not pass the vehicle?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm actually going to get back to the councillor on an answer to that, because I'm going to consult with the OPP to ensure that it's absolutely the correct answer that comes back, rather than make a suggestion. So I will I'll go back to the councillor and advise them of what I can find out directly from the OPP on that particular issue.
Okay, great, thank you. That's it.
Okay, any other questions with that? No, okay, thank you. Correspondence.
Your worship, we have just the two items of correspondence. The first is from Trestle Brewing Company. They're interested in patio extension. They give the background that patio extensions were introduced as an adaptation to ease the pain of the loss of earnings to licensed establishments due to occupancy restrictions put in place as valuable prevention measures against COVID-19. And so now, as those extensions have ended, they're looking to, and now are under the authorization of the municipality, they are asking if they could have their patio area maintained under the authorization of the town. And there is an item on the agenda this evening to deal with that. The second item is from the Chamber of Commerce, and it is a request for $5,000 funding in the upcoming 2023 budget. That's been referred to the Director of Finance. Ensure it goes forward to the budgeting process. Unless the correspondence.
Thank you. Next is deputations, and our first deputation is Diana Clements.
Sorry, Your Honor, I'm just having some technical difficulties.
It should be called that one, 5-1. They go in 5-1, 2, 3. That's it.
See right here.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you this evening. My name is Diana Clements. I've lived in the Parry Sound area for a little over 20 years. And I'd like to speak to you tonight regarding the Parry Sound Forest School and some mutual interests that we have in that program. So before I start that though, I'd like you to reflect for a minute. Could you go to the next slide, please? Oh, that's, no, it's not gonna, okay. It's not, the bullets were supposed to come in. Oh, well, it's kind of a spoiler. Okay. Could you go? Sure. Thank you. Okay, so now that you can't see it, I'd like you to reflect for a moment on your childhood and what you did when you were not in school. I'm going to guess that probably you were not being supervised by your parents. You were probably running around, exploring, climbing, imagining, hiding, and being very active. And I'm guessing that it was probably all outside, or a great deal of it was outside. I certainly was one of those kids who was told to go outside and don't come back till the street light comes on. You know, that was a very, very important time for me, and it was usually outside, and it was usually with friends. Great. Okay. Anything that I'm saying tonight that is statistically, I just wanted to let you know that I have references to anything that I'm saying. If somebody wants references later, I can give those to you. So now I'd like you to think for a moment about childhood in 2022. And don't show me, sorry. In 2022, and just how incredibly different that is compared to the childhoods that we have. If you think about children today, if they are doing outdoor activities or recreation, it's usually in a structured setting where someone's got rules and boundaries and organization and teams, and very, very little of that time is spent just in unstructured play. Another thing about childhood today is the majority of children spend their time sitting. They spend a huge amount of it staring at a screen. I think we know even when you're out for a drive in the car or going to a grocery store, you see toddlers even with their parents' device in their hand. They're consuming a huge amount of media, and they're highly sedentary children today. And as a result of that, we're seeing rising obesity, rising difficulties with anxiety and mental health problems. And children have a decreased ability to navigate risk, to figure out, you know, if you fall in a puddle and you get wet, that it's not the end of the world, to develop resilience. And there's a loss of overall fine and gross motor skills. As a kindergarten teacher, I've watched children come to school in the last 5 or 10 years who can't hold a pencil yet because they haven't got enough core strength to be able to sit up straight to hold the pencil because they've spent so much time in one of those car seats. And I've had an occupational therapist tell me that this is one of the causes, is children are just spending so much time sitting. So now we can go on. Thank you. Childhood today is like indoors and largely solitary. Please. Childhood has changed dramatically, but our needs have not. Children still need to challenge themselves physically. They need to move their bodies. They need to engage in the world around them. None of us like what we see happening. Simply put, most children no longer experience the wonder, the joy, and the physical and psychological benefits of time spent in nature. Doubly concerning is that they're not likely to strive to care for nature in the future if they have no connection to it as children. Today, I would like to invite you to help with this problem by becoming part of the solution. I myself retired 6 years early from the Parry Sound, from the Near North District School Board because I wanted to be part of the solution myself. And I opened a small business called the Parry Sound Forest School. The Forest School is a not-for-profit. We're incorporated, we're fully insured, and completely above board and very professional in all our operations. I'd like to give you a little bit of our history. Oh, it was really nice when they slid it. In 2018, just during the summer, I tried running a little day camp at Canadore College. And I had 24 participants and an ECE worked with me together. 2019, we had 40 participants, again, just during the summer. And then in 2020, I retired and began operating the forest school full-time. You have to remember this is during COVID, so there was quite a few shutdowns. During that time, we had 130 participants. And so these are year-round programs that happen here at Canadore College. And we also have summer programs. In 2020 to 2021, we ran summer programs both in Parry Sound and in Seguin. And then last summer, we were able to expand and we have Canadore, Seguin, and Carling, or Parry Sound, Seguin, and Carling as the 3 municipalities where we're offering summer programs. And we've had over 500 participants engage in our programs just in the last year. And a lot of what we do, especially in Parry Sound, even though the land we start on is Canadore College's, there's 50 acres, excuse me, of land that is owned by the town and by Carling, and we've been accessing it regularly. And I'd like to say, so thank you very much for your ongoing support. I have added you as co-insured, and it's again all been done appropriately and with permission. I'd just like to share a few pictures with you of the kind of things we do when we're at forest school. So this is our main site. Am I allowed to do this? That would be great, thanks. We do all the things that we did with the children that we did when we were children ourselves. They climb trees, they play in the snow. We're outside in all weather. This one little girl is drinking water off the tarp because it was a pouring rain day. Children are allowed to use knives, have fires, and really experience being outside. Our programs that operate during the day, during the school year range the programs are offered for children as young as, I think the youngest we've had was 2 weeks with her mom, all the way to seniors who come with their toddlers. So, we sincerely hope that we can continue to work together with Parry Sound in the future to provide opportunities for even more children to build their connection with nature so that they can experience all of its benefits. While my primary purpose for coming this evening was to thank you for allowing us to use the property in the past, my secondary purpose relates to the property that's on Parry Sound Drive. So can you see my cursor? Yes. So this is Parry Sound Drive. Canadore College is here. So our little building is in the parking lot here. And this is the parcel of land which Carling and the town of Parry Sound purchased together with the intent of having the pool be built there. My understanding is we're still not certain whether it's going to be built there or at the Y, and it doesn't really matter at this point. That's something we're still uncertain about what's going to be happening there. You can see how close this property is to Parry Sound High School and Parry Sound Public School. That's one of the things that makes the Canadore site ideal to us, is that it's central. People who are working can drop their kids off at the forest school on their way to work and pick them up at the end of the day. And we have field trips coming from Parry Sound Public and Parry Sound High School, and they can walk. If you've never visited the site, the main feature of this spot is a wetland called Briggs's Pond or Briggs's Lake, depending who you talk to. This is a provincially significant wetland. And the amount of learning and experiences that happen here are just amazing. Those little snapping turtles up in the corner there, we actually got to watch them come out of the ground. And each of the children, there was 12 snapping turtles, and the children were each able to release one of these snapping turtles. All of these pictures came from that site. I haven't imported any of them. The site has rocks for climbing, a pond with all sorts of vertebrates and invertebrate life. We see turtles, and even yesterday there was an otter out on the ice and a beaver. It's full of life that the children can get up close to and learn from. And while things may not really seem important, they are incredibly important to the development of healthy children. This is a Blanding's turtle, and it wasn't even at the pond. It was kind of right in the middle of that lot in a little wetland that isn't, I would never even imagine that a Blanding's turtle would be there. It's provincially significant, and I believe they now say all the turtles are either threatened or endangered. And this little guy on the right actually found this up on that exactly that spot. It's just an amazing place for the children to be. This spot is actually a rock that slides right out onto Darlington Lake, Darlington's Lake. So if the Parry Sound Drive property is not developed for a pool, we would like the opportunity to fundraise to repay Carlin the amount they paid for the portion of the lot, transfer the money to the town of Parry Sound, and then have the forest remain as a green space for use by mountain bikers and hikers and dog walkers and school groups and the Parry Sound Forest School in perpetuity. We have already seen this done successfully within the town of Parry Sound in the small woodlot adjacent to Parry Sound Public School, Treetops Community Forest, so it has already been done in Parry Sound. I'd like to thank you this evening for your time. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted to thank you very much for allowing us to use your land thus far. And ask permission to be able to use it again this coming summer. But my secondary purpose is to ask that as you discern what will happen to this land in the future, you will consider preserving it and know the huge mental and physical health benefits it will bring to residents and visitors in our region. Thank you. And I must have missed a line. Oh yeah, it's not on here, but as the culture, parks and recreation plan is being developed currently, this is actually an ideal time to be thinking about this. Are there any questions?
Can I ask how, so do you have the same children all the time in a particular course? Is it for part of the year, or does it run the full cessation of the year? Like, how's it structured?
Our programs are divided just like a regular school in that we have terms. And most of the children, their parents bring them once a week. They withdraw them from the regular school once a week to spend a day with us. There are some people who have children who are homeschooled who come twice a week. Some of the programs, there's one program for toddlers, and legally we're only allowed to have those ones for half a day. But then we also have school programs where teachers bring a class to us. And sometimes that's once a year. Some groups have come 6 times in a year. It all depends on the group.
Interesting, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, and we have an after-school program as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's the key.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. Just not clear though, does your school, do they use that community treetops forest that property at all to do any exploring?
I think we visited there once. It's probably about an hour walk from where we are, and no, it's not a place we use regularly at all.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Councilman Kim?
Thank you very much. It certainly is a great program. My niece, Sarah, when she posts something, I make sure to share it because you do great work there.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the property that you're the Carling portion, the futures can be a long time away, and yet it could be next week. We don't know. There's so much development coming on, and there's a lot of value to this, not to take away from the value that you're doing. If you fundraised, your intention is to buy the property and then turn it over to the town or as such. Would that be in perpetuity, or would you, I guess I'm asking for a time limit on this, whether it was 20 years or 30 years or something to that effect, or maybe less. There's a lot, because as I say, with our boundaries being so tight as they are and looking for space to develop, there's lots of potential in that area there. So I'm just wondering if this is something that you are asking for 99 years or 29 or whatever your expectations are.
Yeah, I think that's a really difficult question. I know I have 2 people boarding with me right now because there just isn't enough affordable housing. There's a huge crisis in many regards not just in our community, but around the country. I can't say, I don't know what, do you know how long the treetops forest is? Perpetuity, yeah. I was thinking it would just be maintained. People can find housing. Well, it's a very troubling issue, and I understand that. But I've also spoken to councillors from other districts who want to see it developed and perhaps have industry there because it's highway or have. I just know that there are other large parcels of land within Parry Sound that could be developed for housing that don't have the same potential to be used as green spaces as this one does.
Yeah, no, that's why I asked, because I know it's a difficult answer for it, but I think it's something worth taking into consideration. I'm sure I'm sure this is obviously something to be considered.
I certainly don't think I would be able to find people to donate money to fundraise if we didn't know that it was going to be there for their great grandchildren.
What if it was a smaller, how big is the cartridge?
It's 50 acres.
And is it, forgive me, I can't recall, the property lines, are they right adjacent to where you're situated at, or do you have to get to the Carling portion over the Parry Sound?
I don't think there is a portion that is Carling and is Parry Sound. I believe
It's jointly owned.
it's jointly
Oh,
owned.
is that right?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that. I thought there was actually some boundary.
no.
Okay. So what would be the amount, the maximum amount you could live with that in terms of acreage?
You mean how much developed?
No, well, how much to do what you'd like to do. If there are no boundaries there, and if a certain amount of that property was severed from the rest, I guess I'm asking how much would it need for perpetuity? If you know what I'm saying.
I do.
Yeah.
Can we go back to that, please?
Like in the case of the treetops there, in some ways there's apples and oranges because it really is a confined piece of property next to the school, and it makes sense. But here we have so much tremendous potential, the whole area. So I'm just wondering what the maximum is that you would need, or maybe minimum, maybe for that matter. You don't have to answer that now, but maybe that's something to come up in consideration and talk in negotiations.
Something Councilor Council hasn't even discussed what is going to happen with that property or how we're going to handle it in the future. And I think presentation allows us to take that into consideration and have a thought process around that when we do have a discussion on what's going to happen with that property.
So that's what I'm inferring. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilor Ashford,
Through you. I certainly hope to register my daughter, so you certainly have friends here. But I did want to ask, is the force that we have even though that lot's a lot smaller, is that usable for this purpose in some way? Or is it too small?
Is which too small?
The treetop or the,
Oh,
sorry, yeah.
it's in no way comparable. There's no wetlands that no, it's in no way comparable.
Good. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
The next deputation is Adrian Agerhoff regarding drainage issues on 36 and 38.
Good evening to everybody here today. I'd also like to say, I'm super excited about the horse school being in town. I used to,
Oh, microphone.
sorry. I used to swim on Darlington Lake because it was one of the lakes that would warm up earliest, well ahead of the bay, and always had a fantastic time going out that way. That's where I spent my childhood. Thank you for taking the time to listen. I'll try to condense a year and a half of information into 10 minutes as best as I can. I'm here because the two properties that my father built in 1990 experienced problems after the installation of a sidewalk. At 36 Isabella Street, the drainage block was mostly cosmetic. The only consequence was the driveway washout happening near the road. At 38, the apartment building that my father built that I now own, the drainage block prevented the water from going anywhere but back inside the basement apartment, and this was significantly consequential. Here's a brief summary of what happened. In the before photo, you can see what it looked like prior to the sidewalk installation. Circled in red, you can see the culvert that once was. You can also see the outflow, and the 11 numbers that I've lined out are meant to indicate the number of stairs leading up to the apartment. You go on to slide 4. In the after photo, this was taken by myself later on. You can see that the number of stairs has been reduced from 11 to 9. I illustrated this to demonstrate how much the landscape was changed after the sidewalk was installed. The 2 culverts were removed and the grade was brought up approximately 2 feet, thereby completely burying our drainage outflow. When this happened, I explored options to repair. Service Master out of Barry quoted nearly $40,000 to repair the damage. For that reason, I hired local contractor Ed Lenders. I purchased the supplies from local vendors, saving a significant amount of money. I'd like to point out that this is critical to my request for reimbursement, as I'm not asking for anything more than I was out of pocket, and I repaired the damage as cost effectively as possible. On to slide 6. To reiterate the basics of the situation, we had drainage into the ditch next to a culvert that the town requested. Back in 1990, when my dad's building permit was almost complete, the town then mandated that there be 2 culverts installed to manage the water flow that was going. What I came to learn, could not get information on the town, so I had to request it through a freedom of information. I'll go on about that in a little bit. I learned directly from Director Kearns that the culvert was deleted. The engineer's report makes no mention of filling the ditch, which was done. The deleted culvert and the filling in the ditch caused the blockage. At least I'm confident of that. I incurred the significant expenses as I previously laid out. I did have insurance. I contacted my insurance company and they said the water came from outside, thus it was not from a burst pipe, for example. Thus, it was technically an act of God. I don't believe this was an act of God. I believe this was an act of oversight. And I feel that the cost should be reimbursed by the town. One of the reasons that Director Kearns gave for not assisting us was there was no indication and no record of drainage pipes. After some back and forth, Director Kearns agreed to contact the engineering firm looking for more information. Months and another flood went by, and eventually we got a response from Director Kearns, including the following statement. We did receive some further information that was not captured in the drawings and the project documentation. Director Kearns told us at that time that the culverts were deleted from the drawings. I still don't know why. The details were not provided. When I submitted my final request for reimbursement, I was met with the same reason. I include this letter sent out to the affected residents of the town. The key details in the second paragraph where it says, new municipal sidewalk. Sorry, I lost my place. New municipal sidewalk on the south side of Isabella Street. That's all the information that we were given. Myself and my father did not attend the public meeting to address any concerns regarding this project because we did not see any reason for concern. On several occasions, Director Kearns suggested that we failed to do our due diligence in this respect. Critically, the information sent out included nothing about deleting culverts and nothing about filling a ditch. This particular piece of correspondence regarding our culvert is proof that the town was aware of the existence of our culverts. It's not a lot. All it says is Mr. Abrahoff left a message on Friday regarding the town wants to extend the culvert. What I can say is that in addition to the two original culverts that were required to close the building permit, the extension was granted. So we were able to extend one of the culverts at one point, and my dad wanted that because he wanted to extend the boundary and make it easier to pull in. So I have a couple questions, and these particular questions do not need to be answered. I just wonder, why was the town's initial response to me to assume the responsibility by sending it through my insurance? To reiterate, when I first contacted the town said, put it through your insurance. I don't really understand that, but I'll leave that question with you to ask, why is that the policy? And intrinsically, why should I suffer increased premiums? At a bare minimum, I have to pay my deductible for a mistake made by either the town or the engineers hired by the town. It was my experience that Director Kearns was obstructive in preventing a timely solution. Mr. Bonazza was helpful, he was communicative, and he seemed frustrated at his inability to resolve the issue. It was because it would be months without getting a response, I got into the habit of asking Director Kearns for a date by which he would provide an update. For example, I would ask, when can we expect a response? Director Kearns would not include a specific date, which would leave me in a constant state of never having a date. I would follow up in 2 weeks. I would follow up in a month. At one point, upon requesting a meeting with Director Kearns, Mr. Kearns agreed. But then Vinny met it for the meeting. So I was super happy to see Vinny there. When I spoke to Vinny, Vinny clearly stated that he was sent in Director Kearns' absence, but he could not do anything without Director Kearns' approval, and that he had been explicitly not granted the authority to take any action. That meeting was a clear waste of everybody's time, and further just left a bad taste in my mouth because it wasn't necessary. It didn't accomplish anything, and it didn't get us any further towards the resolution. So as my closing statement, I'm just going to reiterate a few points. In 1990, prior to closing the building permit, my father was required to install 2 culverts for stormwater drainage, one in front of 38 and one in front of 36. From 2005, I showed you a tidbit of information discussing the extension of one of those culverts, an extension that was granted, further proving that the town had knowledge of our culverts. According to Director Kearns, it would appear that those culvert additions and changes were not recorded by the town. But we know that that was false. In the closing statement, Director Kearns used to deny my claim. He said there was no indication of the removal of any stormwater related infrastructure. A point that Director Kearns himself told me in person, that the culverts had been deleted. The central reason why Director Kearns initially refused to assist is the same reason he used to deny the claim. While months prior, he actually approved repairing the damage to our drainage after we had sufficiently proven our case that it was the cause of our issues. I hope that you will see this as clearly as I do. It was not that the town failed to document our drainage or that no record of it ever exists. It was deleted. The reasons Director Kearns gave me to deny the claim, I'm sorry, do not hold water. I am asking for the town to reimburse my expenses incurred due to this oversight. Thank you for hearing me out. I'd be happy to ask any questions. I've got every piece of correspondence and every last little detail. If anybody wants more detail, I would be happy to provide.
Have you provided that information, what you have there to refer?
I have, prior to doing this presentation, I summarized every piece of correspondence. It's about 40 pages. I didn't provide it with the brief, but I'm more than happy to provide every piece of email back and forth. I even summarized it with a timeline so people can get a sense for how long it took to get a response, how many times I followed up to not get a response. I felt like I remained fairly objective in the dealing with this situation. And at the end of the day, permission to repair it on behalf of the town was granted. So I'm confused why I was only met halfway in repairing the damages that were incurred because of this mistake. I don't know how else to put it.
Councilor Zawadzki.
Yes, through you, your worship, thank you for the information. I wonder for just a timeline, how far from when the sidewalk was put in did you have your first flood? It sounds like you had multiple.
The issue only occurred when we received a major downfall because it was draining just really slow. Think of it like a straw at the bottom of our foundation. That foundation, that straw had an opportunity to drain out until that ditch was filled in. Once the ditch was filled in, the only drainage we had was the natural weeping of the foundation. So the opportunity to exhaust a large volume of water had been plugged. So it only occurred when there was major downfalls. And that didn't happen until the entire year of 2019 when the construction project was completed, but there were no major downfalls. It was the following year where we first had a major deluge, and that's the first time it flooded. We had another major deluge a couple of weeks after that. I think that was the time where Bow Street was flooded. And then it wasn't until June of the following year that we had the next major deluge. I am proud or happy to say that we have had some major deluges since it's been repaired, and we have not had any drainage problems, which I feel also proves the nature of the cause, and it has been resolved. So I'm halfway pleased that the town eventually, after I guess what it was is 14 months or so of the onus being put on me to prove that the records that the town had did not exist, but did exist, to say that we were able to proceed with repairing what was damaged.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's everyone. Okay, thank you. Any questions? I think there should be, okay, Councilor Keys.
I think there should be a report brought back to council on this matter as directed here.
There's second. Councilor McCain. Yeah. All in favor of having a report? Go back to council. That's carried. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next application is not for award, but
No, she sounded Hollywood.
that's okay. Regarding the 2023 Rotary Strike.
Yeah.
Welcome.
I'm gonna be done with Cheryl.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Spencer, Cheryl Spencer winters in Collingwood, so I'm here as president of Rotary with Roman Shirok, who's vice president, or president-elect, sorry. And I'd like to thank Mayor Jamie McCarthy, councillors and staff for letting us come and talk to you. We try and do it almost on an annual basis. Would like to express thanks for the support for the 3-pitch, sometimes called Strikes Against Cancer. Talk a little bit about the results and ask for your continuing support. So there's the 3-pitch and Strikes Against Cancer goes completely to our local projects which and in fact, the 3-pitch and the Strikes Against Cancer sort of initiated a fairly tremendous growth in what we've been able to do locally here in our community. So we've been able to respond to identified needs within the community. For example, the grocery program during the middle of the beginning of the pandemic, a project that was supposed to last for 3 to 4 weeks to get us over that bending of the curve, which is still going on today. We still shop every Tuesday for the shut-ins. Rotary has this extensive planning process, but sometimes when a pandemic hit, or for example, when the Ukrainians started to be invaded by the Russians, it's an awful lot more like ready, fire, aim. Just because it has to be. So the first Strikes Against Cancer, and we really do thank the Higgins for their tremendous development of this. It's been they developed it to the point where it's not an easy program to run, but we couldn't have done it without them. So we do want to thank them. It started in 2019 for the Rotarians, or we took it over. We actually worked with the Higgins the year before. All of the monies are spent locally, and some of it goes to cancer care. We like to have at least 20,000 go to cancer care, but we'd like to see even more go that way this year. It allows people to be treated locally, either receive their chemotherapy here or not have to travel to get lab work done. But the 3-pitch really did see our ability to earn money increase, and also our volunteer web. We're still a club of 30-ish. But what we started to discover is we could do so much more with volunteers and help from the community. Then we continue to develop that. The Ukrainian group is quite different from the group that does groceries or the group that does the 3-pitch. We've also learned the process of raising money in other ways. The bingo is completely spent locally. The bingo's been a great boom during the pandemic because you could do it in your home, and people enjoyed the entertainment, won a little bit of money, and supported local growth. But we've also learned how to raise money online, take in donations or sell things and that online. And lots of our projects have their own spending thread now. For example, the Christmas turkeys that we're doing, that hamper, and also the support of the Salvation Army's food bank is completely fundraised separately from all of the rest, and so is the Ukrainian. And we do get district grants to fund things like the drop on the library this year, and English as a second language. Our ability to spend money locally, you see 147,000, just shy of 150,000 since July 2021. So that's a tremendous growth from the past, and the monies are spent in a wide variety. There's no way to show them all, so I just put this word map here, and that because, you know, one moment it's going to food or food share, the next moment we're purchasing wheelchairs or supporting people to get dentures or eyeglasses that they couldn't get on their own. You know, we support the cadets and hockey. Christmas is a big piece, and all of the Ukrainians got Christmas presents this year, it's just sort of endless, and it's really hard to outline. People can, through our community service group, apply for that money, so we never know where it's going to go next. And also we take referrals from places like District Social Services, Children's Aid, or other groups. And that we are proud to say we've now got 69 or 70 Ukrainians in town. We've also supported maybe 7 or 8 that have left town. Some of them had family in other areas, and they just utilized us as a place to come for a while and be safe. At first, it was just get out of the country, be safe, and then figure out where you were going to go. More of the ones that came even early on have stayed, and pretty much everybody who comes now are coming to come and stay in Parry Sound. It's been a separate fundraising program, and it's not been a solely Rotarian, although Rotary's been the lead organization, but Habitat for Humanity, Kinsman has been key. Many of the community organizations and churches have also helped fundraise or taken part in the support. Ukrainians, we will note, settle very quickly in comparison to other refugees. And in fact, they don't have refugee status, so maybe that's why they have to. They're not supported financially for a long time. So they get that they get $3,000. It's just not enough. The federal programs in particular are just not enough, and quite different from other federal programs. But they settle very quickly. Employers love them. And once you get one Ukrainian working in the workplace, they start looking for others. But we have no housing. That's basically why we've been slowed down or stopped from bringing more in. And that if we could identify more houses, or particularly long-term houses, we often will get people opening and hosting the Ukrainians for the first month or two, which is terrific. They absolutely need that, but we need the long-term housing also. And the other thing we want to be very careful about is we have not dropped a single regular Rotarian program, so that we could do the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians have been an additional program, and in fact, we've got a couple extra programs going on locally. Like we took on 3 district grants instead of 2 or 1, and one of the things taking on the Ukrainians has done is taught us how to connect with all of the social service programs and provincial programs and federal programs, which we can now utilize for local people when they come looking for support if they're not aware of programs. And one of them one of the excellent programs is Healthy Smiles for children who are impoverished, but it's just an example. There's a lot of programs that are out and available. And the Ukrainians are working with the Ukrainians have taught us a lot. I've got to say that had amazing support from volunteers all over, but municipal staffs have been wonderful. I'd love to thank Dave Thompkins for supporting us in April McNamara. We couldn't have done the potato program or the food delivery programs or that without the support of the volunteers in the staff. We'd like to encourage people to support us financially, but we'd also like to grow the basic club. So if you want, come join us, particularly if you're interested in local leadership. We've got roles for you. It's a fun, exciting, and it's really great for personal growth and professional growth. You get to practice the skills that you would need in middle and senior management. Our three pitch, back to our three pitch, is on June 16th and 17th. That's Father's Day weekend. That's the Friday, Saturday. We're going to have it all: the fish fry, the bands, well, of course, the softball. We hope to have 32 teams this year. We hope to have at least 20,000 go to cancer, but that could be a higher number if we can get some more support. And since it's so close, we'd like to say thank you and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Happy Healthy New Year, and thank you from the Rotary Club of Parry staff.
Thank you. When do you sleep?
Anyhow, yeah, I'm not working at the level that but yeah, it's kind of been somewhere in my genes. I got the ability to manage a lot of balls, but it's not just me, it's a whole team of people. And that Roman gets to do it next year.
But scare away.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wanted to say thank you for your service, and it's certainly a testament to your model, which I think is a service above self.
Yes, it is.
So excellent. And if people are interested in joining, they should check out your website.
Yeah.
Get in touch with you.
RotaryParrySound.org. Hit the join button. We've made it real simple. You just have to hit the join button, and we'll get.
No turning back afterwards. Well, thank you very much, and Merry Christmas to you and the Rotary Club members. Great work.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks.
And again, thank you to Rotary, and Merry Christmas to all of
Yeah.
you.
Merry Christmas.
Did you know too that we have Councilor Wyman online? So, reports. We'll start with Councilor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just had a couple things to bring to everyone's attention today. The first is the young lady, sweetness leaders named Myra Rojan. She was named player of the game at a tournament in Calgary. Her team was the only team that was made up of all Indigenous young ladies. Maya's family are ratepayers in our town. Excuse me, and I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate her and those accomplishments on behalf of the town. Also, I wanted to bring to everyone's attention a thank you for everyone here and all of our ratepayers for supporting the Sweet for the Soul event at the Bobby Orr this year. The support of the town has allowed hospice to expand services. We've hired 2 new counselors to work with bereavement and a volunteer coordinator. It's part of our recovery plan from COVID, and it could not be happening without the support of everyone in the town of Parry Sound. Thank everyone so much.
Councilor McCann.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, fellow councilors, staff, and public. On Wednesday morning, December 7th, I attended the Parry Sound Public Library monthly board meeting. We welcomed Rolanda Freezer as our manager of collections and community engagement. We also welcomed new board members, and we're hoping for a successful outcome. In our bid to apply for funding from the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation, to help out with our HVAC system, and the mute boxes are now installed, and we hope to have a ribbon cutting event for those in the near future. They look like a bit of a telephone booths, but they're a remarkable addition to the library. Thursday, in December 8th, I attended the West Parry Sound District Museum monthly board meeting via Zoom. Regular business was conducted, including receiving the manager's report, the treasurer's report, finance committee report. We're very fortunate to find ourselves in a good position starting off in 2023. Our budget for that year was approved, and just to let you know, that Giving Tuesday fundraiser resulted in receiving just over $2,000, which will go towards producing a research center, which will be located in the back office for outside visitors and researchers. There was also discussion on membership drives to get more people in the area involved. Tuesday evening, I attended, or December 13th, I attended a special town of Parry Sound Council meeting, in which council received a background and lesson on development charges. It was very informative. As we draw near to the end of 2022, West Parry Sound District Community Support Services would like to issue a big thank you to the people of the area for their generosity, helping out in several ways. Volunteers deliver Meals on Wheels, provide transportation, help organize special events, and those who contribute financially, as well as a big thank you to all those who have been dropping off their redeemable deposit alcoholic containers, which include wine and spirits bottles, plastics, wine bladders from the dispensary boxes, beer bottles and cans. Just to let you know how feasible such a fundraiser is, this year you contributed a total amount of $4,415.90 collected at our depots. So thank you very much, and we look forward to those continued donations at Sobeys and at McFarland transfer station in the coming year. Again, as I was asking Mr. Kearns at the beginning of this meeting, I want to acknowledge and thank Public Works and Chip and Electric on the installation of the street lighting at the intersection of Bowes and Pine. It will make it much safer for pedestrians and for drivers. So thank you for that. And at this time, I'd like to personally wish our mayor, fellow councilors, town staff, and the public a very Merry Christmas. And on behalf of myself and wife Josie, we'd like to wish you health, happiness, peace throughout the new year in 2023, and a wee bit of prosperity as well too. So take care, and that is my report.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilor Barnum online.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to make this real quick. I'm not going to offer a report tonight beyond saying I hope everyone does have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Gillespie.
Thank you, Your Worship. A couple of weeks ago, I went to a Chamber of Commerce breakfast at Rappers. It was very interesting. I met some local people, business people, and the conversations around the table always went back to housing. Somebody's not there. The one gentleman said, you know, I could hire more people if I could find a place for them to sleep. They just won't come up. Well, that kind of follows up with what we all know anyway, and we're working on. I think it was a very interesting breakfast. A couple days after that, we had a Zoom meeting with the chamber. Was my first. I was a little bit awed by how they work. You know, I'm not used to it. I didn't know any of the people yet, but anyway, we went through the various reports, and I was welcomed, and so it was enjoyable. I received a call last Saturday from a gentleman and he gave me his name and I didn't write it down quick enough. My phone started going dead after about an hour and I didn't get a chance to tell him his name again. Anyway, he's from Park to Park Trail Association, he's with Secret. They're very, very active, and I guess the trail itself is extremely active, and he was talking about the amount of money that's being spent on it and from everybody, not just Secret, but anyway, it was he's very high on it. As I say, we were the better part of an hour. Thought he was doing the talk and I was doing the living. He was telling me what they were doing. We're very interested. And I want to thank staff and everybody for yesterday's bus tour. I come out of there very impressed with the way it looks like the town's going to go, the people that are going to invest money in our town. And it looks like it's going to go forward. Explained a lot of things as staff, very, very helpful, explained a lot of things to me. I was very, very impressed with it. And that's it. I wish everybody Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors, staff and the public. My report will be short. As a convention, I also attended the special council meeting that Councillor McCann has already explained about. And I attended yesterday the development tour, which Councillor Gillespie has mentioned, and certainly it was a fine job. We had a number of directors and other employees along with that tour. There was a lot of information presented, and one can only become hopeful that some of these developments that appear to at least be in the beginning phases will get to shovel ready. And that's my report. I wish everybody a lovely Christmas, Happy New Year, and look forward to being back at council in mid-January. Thank you.
Thank you. Council staff and public, I really only have one meeting to report on. There was other stuff going on, but December 14th, I attended the Westbury Sound Recreation and Cultural Center meeting. It was decided that the direction to proceed in was for a 6-lane pool. The architectural firm was also hired, so we're moving closer to design and we're hopefully trouble to the ground. So we're on the move, which is good. That's my report. So moved by Councillor Gillespie and seconded by Councillor Ashford. That council approves the applicant number 2-2022's appeal and grant a temporary 1-year probationary taxi driver's license with following conditions: that a level 2 criminal record check be provided at the end of.
Excuse me, that I had declared.
Oh.
Very interesting.
Okay.
Thank you.
That a level 2 criminal record check at the end of the temporary period of 1 year and annually thereafter as part of the regular renewal process without any new convictions. 2, that subsequent driver abstracts checked every 6 months while holding a valid taxi driver's license do not contain any new convictions. And 3, that the owner of Parry Sound Taxi sign a responsibility agreement, and that if the town becomes aware of any violation of the applicant's probation conditions set herein, the license will be revoked immediately. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Coming back. So moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Gillespie. The council approves the recommended full road closure traffic control option for the duration of the rehabilitation of the Cascade Street Bridge shorten the duration of the project and provide the safest alternative while providing the lowest overall cost work. Discussion. Councilor McCain. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go to Councilor Ornament online there. He's okay for that. Councilor Ornament.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm wondering if I didn't see it in the report. Does someone have an idea of what the duration of this project might be? And do we have any sort of idea about timeline so as the public can be adequately forewarned?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. We're looking at a project about 8 to 10 weeks. If we don't go with the road closure, that'll add an additional 2 to 4 weeks. We're looking at getting started first thing in the spring. There is some work that have to be done between the mid-summer months due to the fact with the Ministry of Natural Resources with the fish and stuff like that.
Okay. Councilor McCann.
Councilor Borman asked the first question I had in mind in terms of the duration. Is this, would this save money in the long run by shutting the traffic down as well? 2 weeks out of, how long did you say it was?
So it'll be extended 2 to 4 weeks. This will save big additional cost of the project and better quality of work overall.
Okay, so I obviously tour signs will be set up. I can recall when the bridge was closed before we were, and how long, can you describe the kind of restoration like this being done?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we're looking at we're having some spalling done on the soffit, so on the underside of each side of the bridge, the concrete's falling off, so we're gonna have to basically shave that down, re-pour. Also, we have issues in the sidewalk with delamination. We're gonna have to grind the sidewalk down to the rebar, treat it also, and to re-pour the sidewalk as well. Also, talking with the engineers, the waterproofing on the bridge is up next year, so we're encompassing that into the total project. So we're going to be stripping the deck off, redo the waterproofing, and repaving the deck, because there's no sense going back twice to get that all finished at the same time.
Sounds like a big job. Thank you.
Any other?
Thank you, working through you. Is this going to be done with in-house staff? Is that,
No,
it's being contracted?
yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. One is for certainly Mr. Vanessa, but the other question is for Mr. Johnson. Mr. Vanessa, I'm just wondering, the sidewalk, when it gets put back on Cascade Street, will it be at a different level, at a different width, anything like that? Because I know right now the sidewalk, there's quite a drop between the sidewalk and the roadway there on Cascade.
When through Mr. Mayor, when the work is completed, it should be back to where it is now. I believe it is at the standard of curb height where it is at the moment. So like a short answer is going back to the same height where it is originally.
Okay. And I have a second question, and that's for Mr. Thompson. I'm just wondering if the Cascade Street Bridge is completely closed. Has it been examined if there was, whether it be a fire emergency, an EMS emergency? Are there any concerns there as to the amount of time? Has there been some measurement as to X number of minutes longer? And is there alternative route, etc.?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the most important part for emergency services, and that'd be all emergency services, is the clear communication of when the closure is occurring. And this is going to be well advertised, well documented, and has already been discussed and communicated. With that particular location, we do have clear access for all the equipment, whether it be the tower truck or the ambulances coming from either side. And we're prepared to work around that. This is not an unusual occurrence. We have emergency road closures that occur all the time. Public Works is excellent about communicating those. We get the information out to the emergency services, be that police, fire, or ambulance, very quickly, all the dispatch centers know. With the mapping that's in the dispatch centers now, they can clearly identify where an emergency is and direct crews, be that police, EMS or fire, about the appropriate routes to take. So we are used to this sort of activity, and in this particular situation, we have clear access from both sides of the situation, so it is very manageable. I guess there may be some slight extension of time if you were to have to access the north side of the bridge for an ambulance coming from that particular area, but I would suggest that it would be relatively minimal.
Okay. Councilor Ashford.
It sounds like we are well advertised, but I did want to check and see, will we also be notifying the schools in the bus consortium to ensure that it's a main corridor for the high school kids, and there's at least one family that travels by foot to school. Can we make sure that they have enough notice to be able to rearrange busing?
Yes, talking with our engineering firm that we're putting together the tender, we'll be notifying everybody, and that'll be in there for them, the successful person that wins to have that notice in place, and we'll do our due diligence to the town to notify everybody.
That's actually a good question, because the bus, when the bus comes through, it's gonna have to have a turnaround at the end of the street, but like where the bridge is.
So on the one end, we do have a turnaround right at the sharp corner that goes into, I'm not sure what that industrial establishment is there.
Yeah.
We are allowed to turn around there, and I believe it's Foster on the other end, they'll be able to turn around as well.
That's good. Okay, Mr. Kern.
Yes, your worship, I just wanted to add, when we speak of notifying all of the agencies, often we don't mention the bus companies, but they are a part of our notification list on a regular basis.
Maybe Councilor Ashford and I will be able to get out of our respective driveways a little bit easier for a few weeks. Councilor McKay.
You're just gonna sell your parties. When you mention kids, I can't help but think, the kids are kids. I suspect that if I was a child having to walk home and I had to walk all the way downtown to get across the river, or the other way, which is even worse, I might be tempted to try to cross on something that I'm not supposed to do. So I guess there could be extra security and watching for that as well too, because there will be somebody who will try to traverse where they shouldn't.
Yes, all the traffic control and pedestrian control measures will be in place.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If anyone hasn't thought about it, I'm not giving them any ideas.
Yes, your worship, just along that line, we'll certainly be in contact with the railway as well. And just because obviously those are not safe routes for anyone to use on foot, so we'll have that conversation with the railway as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Just as a follow-up, maybe some entrepreneur could start on a little bit of a barge service from one side to the other.
Okay, anything more on this particular one? No, all in favor of them? And that's carried. Moved by Councilor Cantor, by Councilor Ashford, that council approved the 2022 municipal assistance program allocations for attachment 1, schedule A. So everybody got their information in, and okay, good. I will go through the list so that people know. For the Parry Sound area, CB and DC. $2,923. Business Center. Nipton Parry Sound Incorporated, $2,263. That's for the economic development portion of that particular grant program. And then the municipal assistance program for nonprofit allocation 295 person squadron, $1,011, Georgia Bay Biosphere, $1,775, Parry Sound Forest School, $943. The Parry Sound District EMS Toy Drive, $913 for a total of $4,642. Any discussion? Councilor McCann.
I think I've asked this in the past and I just can't quite remember. So monies that are left over, does it roll into the next year or does it go into some reserves or what happens? In the end, if there's anything left over.
Through your worship, and again, any unspent funds remain unspent for the year, nothing's carried forward.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor then? Not carried. Moved by Councilor Voskey and seconded by Councilor Keith that council approve the purchase of 2 ambulances from Crestline in the amount of $214,444.75 plus HST. Each with the sole source purchase and that the purchases be funded to the EMS Equipment Reserve account. Questions? All in favor? Carried. You changed it up on this one. Councilor Ashton. You changed it. Moved by Councilor Ashford, seconded by Councilor McCann. Whereas on June 8th, 2020, the Alcohol Gaming Commission of Ontario AGCO permitted new patios or temporary additions to patios, provide more opportunities to local businesses while protecting health and safety, subject to municipal requirements. And whereas the Council of the Town of Parry Sound passed resolution 2020-067 to permit temporary restaurant patios to opted not to enforce zoning or site plan agreements as it related to parking infractions because of these patios until January 1st, 2021. Whereas the Council of the Town of Parry Sound passed resolution 2022-020, which extends the timelines of resolution 2020-067 to January 2022. And whereas in December 2022, the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario AGCO amended the provincial framework for temporary patios, which comes into effect on January 1st, 2023, and requires that municipal approval be obtained for these licenses prior to selling or serving liquor on a temporary patio for up to 8 months per calendar year. Now therefore be resolved, the Council of the Town of Parry Sound supports the approval for a temporary patio at Trestle Brewery located at 9 Great North Road for a period of up to 8 months expiring on January 1st, 2024, for the terms noted in resolution 2020-067, with the condition of this approving resolution only applies to food consumption and does not apply to liquor licenses which are the jurisdiction of the AGCO. Any discussion? Councilor McCann.
So I'm just wondering then, is there a limit to the number of chairs that can be put on the patio, and does this affect parking in any way, shape?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will be speaking to this tonight for Mr. Brand. This is a little bit complicated in that the conditions or the ACGO changes were just released in early December. And one of the 2 patios that utilize this process actually utilizes it in the winter time rather than in the summertime for the majority of the usage. I don't think that ACGO ever thought that that was going to be the case when they initially provided these permissions. But in the case of Trestle, that is primarily when they want to utilize the exceptions. So to answer your question, for Trestle, because now we're going to be dealing with these on a case-by-case basis rather than as a blanket resolution that we have done for the past 2 years. So this resolution only deals with trestle. And the other business that does utilize this exemption, we will be contacting as it gets closer to their season when they put their patio in place to discuss with them how they want to move forward. In the case of trestle, it primarily does affect the parking that they have in their parking lot, and that's the exemption that we're providing. We're removing or we're providing an exemption from their site plan, from the zoning bylaw, to allow for them to have the extended patio.
Thank you.
Councillor Keith?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. What I'm wondering about Mr. Thompson, with that extension for another 8 months, and I think we all realize that COVID has had an impact in all the businesses and people are trying to be resourceful. And us also maybe being flexible can be a good thing, but is there a plan that by the end of the 8 months, that there's going to be a more solid plan that they will be able to bring forth rather than another request for an extension?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is exactly what the goal of staff as well as the proprietors of trestle are aiming for. To actually take these 8 months to move through the processes that would allow for permanent changes to the way their facility operates and the facilities that it has, so that they won't need this exemption in the future.
Any further? All in favor? And that's good. Moved by Councilor Pulaski, second by Councilor Keith, that bylaw number 2022-7300 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an amending agreement with Call to Recycle Canada Incorporated for the continued collection of single-use rechargeable batteries at the new compensation rate inserted as resolution. All in favor? Carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Moved by Councilor Pulaski, second by Councilor Keith, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read, second and third final, passed, signed, and sealed. Mr. Kearns, maybe you could just give a just brief Cole's notes on this and how it's changing or.
Yes, Your Worship. The this is an agreement with Culture Recycle, which is considered you'll hear the term quite often, especially in the next year. A PRO, so a producer responsible organization. This is part of the process the province is moving to, where the producers of goods are responsible for the life cycle of the goods they produce. So you'll, as I said, you'll hear more of this related to our Blue Box program upcoming, but essentially Call to Recycle has amended their agreement, paying more per kilogram for the materials collected. And for us to be able to take advantage of that, the amending agreement has to be signed to recognize the increase in the revenues we receive for collecting these on their behalf, essentially. So it's essentially a housekeeping item to update the agreement.
Any other questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Moved by Councilor Keith, second by Councilor Pulaski, the bylaw number 2022-7301 being the bylaw to authorize the execution of a 1-year extension to the current service agreement with Waste Connections Canada for curbside waste and recycling to be considered as read the first time. All in favor? Carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Carried. Moved by Councilor Keith, second by Councilor Pulaski, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Both notes?
Thank you, Your Worship. So again, I'm going to mention you'll hear more related to our Blue Box program in particular. So essentially, at this point, that's why we're recommending a 1-year extension. Our transition date is January 1st, 2024, to start transitioning towards the full cruiser responsibility in the Blue Box program. And there's a lot of active work currently going on with municipal organizations and many municipalities, and we are certainly having those discussions with our neighboring municipalities and what those impacts will be. But what you're going to see here is an increase. It's essentially, I believe, a 7% increase across the board for the 1-year contract extension, which is not dissimilar to what we're seeing in the inflationary index over the last year. So there will be changes before the end or before the beginning period. So that's why we spoke to them again about needing to recognize that transition period beginning on January 1st of 2024. So that's why we're looking at 1-year extension.
Makes sense. Yeah. Any other questions, comments? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Pulaski, that bylaw number 2022-7305 being a bylaw to authorize the execution of the agreement with Or Enterprises for the remainder of the 2022-2023 ice in season ending no later than March 31st, 2023 for the provision of snack bar services at the Bobber Community Center. Be considered as read the first time. All in favor? Carried. Members in favor of having the second and third reading? Carried. Moved by Councillor Keith and seconded by Councillor Pulaski that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read a second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. Mr. Kearns, this came in as an addition. Quick synopsis of what we've got here.
Yeah, so in November this year, there was a request for proposal released to our electronic system to solicit responses in terms of offering snack bar services at the Bobby Community Center. Of course, we all know that over the last few years, operating conditions changed and it's been dormant for quite some time, and there seems to be a real desire amongst the users of the facility to hopefully return to pre-pandemic type activities and be able to access those services. So in the absence of responses to the request for proposal, Mr. Atherton came forward with not a formal proposal, but an idea that given the current conditions in the market, the food service industry is certainly experiencing all of the challenges, maybe more than the typical businesses are here in terms of or everywhere in terms of being able to hire staff and operate competitively, I guess, or at least hopefully competitively. So this before you is kind of a test case. It would be a 3-month period essentially from the start of January, provided that he's able to obtain all of the required documents and insurance coverages and that sort of thing. The idea, he would like to start offering the services. We do have an equipped kitchen within the snack bar. So what we spoke about and what is before you is an offer from him to offer those services without paying fees to the town. And our discussion revolved around gaining some knowledge essentially about the operating conditions that someone in that, whether it be a town operated facility or a private operated facility in the future, gives us some data regarding viability of it in a short-term experiment, essentially, while providing the service to the users of the facility for the rest of the till the end of March. Essentially, guys, it's scheduled to be no later than March 31st.
Okay, well, there's been a number of people that have asked to have something down there, so it's all good. Council Cam.
So this is a good idea, and certainly it's a service that's definitely needed. I haven't had a chance to look at this particular resolution or bylaw. Is there a promise of commission based on any kind of profits that would be made? Or is this just simply a cap funding situation? Any monies that are raised would go towards Mr. Atherton for his work, which will be a lot of work.
Through your worship, yeah, there will be no monies exchanged or based on commission, and there is a clause in the agreement that we be provided with a detailed operating report involving expenditures and revenues, so we have something to analyze after the season is over.
So we're in the clear as far as allowing this tonight, like we're not.
They're supplying their own insurance, so
I'm sorry.
they're providing their own insurance.
Okay, good. And the fact that this is on town property, we're not going against any municipal act raised. I guess what I'm asking is there anything in the municipal act that says we can provide services gratis or a place to operate?
I'm not aware of any regulation that would preclude the municipality from allowing a service provider to utilize the facility.
Okay, that's, thank you.
Okay, your worship, I just like to add, there was in the agreement, in Schedule A, there is a reference in the printed document to the provision of pro shop services. That is a simple oversight, and that needs to be removed because this is simply the snack bar.
Right. Council Q.
Yes, thank you. It's just a very quick question. So it seems to me this is like a pilot project and the report that's to come back. The report is to come back to you by what date? But do they have a month to get that report or can they drag it out to 5 months? What's it do, please?
Through your worship, the date in the agreement is the end of April, so it's essentially a month after closure.
Mr. Harris. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just through to Councilor McCann's question. I think allowing this agreement makes sense and is appropriate, given that there was an advertised RFP and nobody responded. If we were just offering this to someone free and there was no other public process beforehand, that would be a different response from staff.
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree.
Council Borman, is that you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to agree with Mr. Harris there that it was tendered, there was no response, so to leave it sitting empty for the next 3 months does no one any favors, and we're likely to be in the same situation again next September. Hopefully this entices this group and maybe others to make a proposal for next season.
Thank you. They still have some data and some information or whatever to go with it. Mr. Atherton's very familiar with the complex there, so. Yeah. Okay, anything else? All in favor? That's carried. Moved by Councilor Ashford, second by Councilor McCann, the bylaw number 2022-7302, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of agreement with GHD Digital to redesign the town of Parry Sound main website in the Go stack of the CMS content management system be considered for the first time. All in favor? That's carried. All those in favor of having a second third reading? Carried. Moved by Councilor Ashford, second by Councilor McCann, the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read second and third time passed, signed and sealed. Bill, would you like to give a quick synopsis of what we're doing here?
Absolutely. Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have a great opportunity if we plan on redesigning our website anytime in the next few years to do it now. There's a major cost savings opportunity that equals the amount of the operational costs of our website for a full year. So if we act now, we get to essentially get a year for free. The Town of Parry Sound website is currently 8 to 9 years old, so it's getting up there. I think websites in general tend to be updated fairly frequently. I wouldn't be suggesting we move forward with an agreement like this for just any reason. So to make sure this is a good idea, staff and council and the public were surveyed about what they thought the main goals of our website need to be. And taking that into consideration, we compared what the goals are against what our current website is doing, what it could potentially be capable of doing if we put in additional effort, or what it cannot do. And what we found was for 2 of the 3 main goals of our website, we really need some additional ability to craft it that we do not currently have. So in order to equip staff with the tools to achieve the main goals of having up-to-date information, having clear, organized information that's very easily accessible, and to highlight major wins and other large events or important information, the tool that we're recommending council agree to will give staff the ability to do that.
Okay. Councilor McCann?
I remember the days when just a static page for a website was fair enough, but we rely on sites so much now, their activity, and of course with concerns over security, there's so much. Is there, I mean, perhaps, I think you've probably answered my question already, but I was going to ask what some of the goals or objectives are in a new design, and do you have any idea at this point in terms of what it may look like moving forward? Not to put you on the spot, but is there anything significant that comes up?
Sure. So through you, Mr. Mayor, some of the primary things that the public did when they visited our website are things that they can't currently immediately do. They have to go find it, whether that be through a search bar or through navigating a menu system. This new design gives us the ability to add very clear buttons with pictures to the most accessed resources on our website, right there smack dab in the middle of the front page. It also gives us the tools to make similar adjustments across our entire website to link to similar content that someone may need. For example, if someone's looking for where to dispose of their waste, they may also want to know the hours of our transfer station. Relationships like that can be made very clear in this new system.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, anything further? All in favor? Carry. By Councilor Ashford, second by Councilor McCann, that bylaw number 2022-7303, being bylaw to authorize the execution of agreement with Dell Canada for provision and user computing devices on an as and when required basis be considered as read the first time. All in favor? Carry. All members in favor of having second and third readings? Carry. Moved by Councilor Ashford. Councilor McCann, second by Councilor Ashford. The bylaw above mentioned be considered as read second, third time, passed by and sealed. Since you're in the chair, Mr. Belchamber, if you want to give us a quick synopsis of what we're doing here. Well,
Absolutely. For you, Mr. Mayor, this is very simple. It lets us buy things.
there you go.
So the OECM agreement allows the town of Parry Sound to use the purchasing power of the entire public sector, which is obviously a lot larger than us. So by entering into this agreement, we get to use that purchasing power to purchase Dell branded devices as and when needed. We're under no restrictions to only purchase through them. It's entirely our choice. It's just another vendor we can look to try to get the best bang for our buck.
We need to do. Thank you. Anything further? All in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Ashford, second by Councillor McCann, that bylaw 2022-7304, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council be considered as read the first time. All in favor? That carried. All members in favor of having the second and third readings? Carried. Moved by Councillor Ashford, second by Councillor McCann, that the bylaw above mentioned be considered as read the second and third time, passed, signed, and sealed. All in favor? That's carried. So the first piece of part of the adjournment, the mayor and members of council, Town of Parry Sound, request the pleasure of the company of the mayor's year's levy. That will be Sunday, January the 8th, 2023, from 12 noon to 2 p.m. in the Hart Trophy Room at the Bolivar Community Center, 7 Mary Street. Presentation of the order of Parry Sound will be presented, and refreshments will be served, and certainly everyone is welcome. And anyone that can RSVP, which is appreciated, please respond to rjohnson@parrysound.ca. Prior to adjourning, I'd like to offer the following information to the public regarding the next council meeting. The next meeting of council of the Town of Parry Sound is scheduled for Tuesday, January 19th. Tuesday, January 17th, 2023 at 7 p.m. The meeting will be held at the Town of Parry Sound Council Chambers at 52 Seaman Street, entrance by Gibson Street. It will be live streamed and recorded. All regular council meetings are held at 7 p.m. on the first and third Tuesday of each month, except January and August. Where only one regular meeting is scheduled. Council meeting schedule, notices of special council meeting, complete agendas, minutes, and instructions on accessing the live streamed and recorded council meetings are all posted on the town's website. Go to www.parrysound.ca and use the search bar. Your TV airs council meetings on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. following a regular council meeting. And for Cogeco listings, contact www.yourtv.tv. And it's that time at the end of the year where I get to say Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night, happy holidays, and all the best in 2023.